Hey everyone, I'm going to break down the steps of how I created this easy scene in Blender 3D, as well as the painterly effect in Photoshop. This breakdown uses a lot of outside sources of models and textures to cut many corners to create the scene quickly and easily. For starters, I wanted the background to be a Roman-like city engulfed in flames. For the city, I bought the low poly city set from TurboSquid. You could find cheaper or free alternatives as well as manually modeling different buildings yourself. However, I intend to use this for future projects, so I decided to buy it. To spread all of these out on a plane, add all the buildings in one collection, then add the hair particle system onto a large plane with many subdivisions. Adjust the number to then reach a desired look. Modeling fire can be very tedious and also stressful on your computer's components, so a simpler alternative is to add another plane with an emission to simulate the fire's light. To make the fire's light randomly dispersed and uneven, in the Shader tab, combine a Principles BSDF with the color black, in a Mix Shader node with an emission with the color orange. In Effect, add a noise texture with the color ramp, and adjust the black and white values until you reach a desired look. To create streams of smoke, add in a metabolr and combine them on top of each other to create the rough shape of smoke. Join them all into one object, then convert them to mesh. In the Shader tab, use a principled volume. This requires a lot of playing around to reach a specific look, but depending on the brightness of the fire below, as well as the light from the sky, mainly adjust the color and density values to reach your desired look. To create this dark sky, I mixed this HDRI with a sky texture with these values. To add more detail in the atmosphere, I added a large cube over the entire scene and gave it a principled volume with these values here, to create something that's not too dense as well as gives a slight emission. Now, for the foreground, I created a large cube and deleted the front face to create a dark room with a large front opening. I then textured it with a marble texture from the Blender Kit add-on. The camera was placed towards the back of the room with a fairly high focal length and a depth of field that reached the end of the room. In this case, it's 20 meters. I also changed the resolution to a wide aspect ratio to make it more cinematic. I got these pillars from the Blender Kit add-on where I then spread them here along the front. And now for the characters. I went onto Mixamo, which has a library of rigged characters as well as animations. Feel free to give this a browse and look for characters and animations that you want in your scene. I chose the character called Paladin and used the animations called Sword and Shield Attack and Sword and Shield Death to create this battle right here. Download them as an FBX file, and in Blender, go to File, Import, FBX and select your downloaded files. And that is pretty much all for this scene here. Adjust the render settings so it works for you and render the scene. Now, after you have your final render, you can use any software to touch it up for a more enhanced look, where I used Adobe Lightroom. For the painted effect, add your photo into Photoshop. There's two steps to this method, one involving generative AI. If you don't want to use AI, you could still achieve the painted look with the first step. First, open up your final render, then add it in again so you have two layers. On the top layer, press Filter, then Filter Gallery. By clicking on Dry Brush, you can create the look of an oil painting. Adjust the values to your desired look, and that is all for the first step. For the second method, I followed the Blue Lightning TV Photoshop tutorial, where I link it in the description. A touch-up I made for myself was putting a layer with the dry brush on top of the layer with the oil painting, then set the dry brush layer's opacity to 80% to blend them a bit. Your final result should be your final 3D render with a now oil painting look. I hope this breakdown has given you a genuine idea on how to make your own quick 3D environments. Feel free to comment for assistance or suggestions, and like and subscribe for more.